This is a review of the Volvo XC90. This car has been out for a while now, since 2016, but we're going to focus more on the driving, some of the features, and also how easy it is to fix this car. So let's take a look. The looks, as far as looks goes, I'm not going to focus. That's your personal preference. You can be the judge of that, whether you like how the car looks or not. I'm going to focus on the driving characteristics, and I'm also going to focus some of the safety features that are found on this car. So this car is full of technology. Volvo does a great job focusing on safety. Comparing this car to some of the other let's say luxury cars like Mercedes and BMW, when it comes to safety, personally I think this is done much better. There's more safety features by default that, like, if you were on a BMW or on a Mercedes, you'd have to have add-ons added to the trim, the car that you're buying, to get some of the features. So for example, right here, I'll show you really quick. I mean, you can see this car has lane keeping assist, park assist, cross traffic alert. It's got distant alert if you get too close to cars, start stop, self park and park out, camera is 360, blind spot monitor, road sign information, and this is a 2018, by the way. And you got corner illumination from front, active bending of the headlights, moving left and right as you turn the steering wheel. You have adaptive high beams, so right here you can turn that on and you can see the headlight symbol there with an A. That means that the lights will turn on to high beam if there's no other cars on the road while you're driving. So there's a lot of safety features. Now, with that said, overall the car is not super difficult to work and fix and repair it yourself. Like, you can do things like changing your brake pads, changing your battery or changing oil and things of that nature. The only thing is that, as these cars have more system on it, if something went bad, like if you're, let's say you have your ABS or traction control light is on, you're gonna need to end up getting a scan tool that can get into all these systems. So you need a full system scanner that can access every system possible on this car. This car has what's called driver mode, so you can switch them here, press that down, and you can have these settings, if you want it to be more dynamic. What this does is changes really how the engine and transmission behaves. Now, if you had air suspension, it'll change that as well, make it stiffer and smoother. Echo is gonna, shut the engine every light, change the gears a lot earlier. If you are in sport mode, engine stays on same gear longer. RPMs tend to go a little higher. It's gonna burn more fuel, but you get that better performance. If you had the air suspension, it will switch to a stiffer ride. So let's take this for a quicker ride. I'm going to talk about road noise, suspension quality, and the self-driving feature. Now, this is not fully autonomous vehicle, so it's you still have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but this does have pilot assist, which means that the car can keep distance for cars in front of you, stay in the lane, and do the steering by itself, but you do have to keep the hands on the steering wheel. So let me show you real quick. So you press this button right here to engage the adaptive cruise control, and when you press that, it automatically first will switch that on. But if you press the arrows to the left and right, then you'll see pilot assist there at the bottom, and then the car is going to monitor the lines. Once it sees the lines and detects them, it'll show a green steering wheel right there. At this point, you still need to have your hands on the steering wheel, because if you don't, it'll cancel. But the car can actually do the steering. Now, keep in mind, if you press the brakes, that gets canceled automatically. The nice thing about Volvo is it will warn you that is canceled. If you have cars in front of you that are too close, it'll show 4 orange dots. That means that you should be doing the braking. The car is not braking, the car is not steering for you. So that's a very nice feature. With a lot of other cars, you actually don't realize you use you know, the self-driving all the time, but you don't realize when it's being canceled or if it's still engaged. So right now it's canceled. If I get too close to a car in front of me, they'll show me those 4 dots right there. You can see right there. I can engage self-pilot, self-driving. It's automatically doing the braking for me. It detects the car. Now the steering wheel is not green. That means it's not doing the steering for me because it's not detecting the lines where the line is. And it will have a harder time on roads where markings are not very well done. They're fading. If there's like driving in the snow and stuff. Right now you can see. You should keep your hands on the steering wheel. So if I take my hands off, it's gonna still do it, but what it's gonna do in a few seconds there is gonna say put your hands on the steering wheel. So it's still staying. It's not fully self-driving. You can see it says down there, it says apply steering. If I don't apply steering, it turns orange first, then red, then it will cancel the self-driving. So you do need to have. Now you can control the speed. I can speed up if you want. But you see these lines in front of the steering wheel there. It just shows that now the car is doing the braking for you. And remember, if you press the brakes, that does get canceled. As far as suspension goes, this does not have air suspension. It is a little stiff. It's not, when you compare it to some of the German cars, Mercedes GL or BMW X7, at least in the US market, they tend to come standard with air suspension. So those are a lot better, way more superior. I would rank those, the air suspension, about 9.5 out of 10, versus on this, the suspension is not bad, but it is a little stiff. I would say probably about an 8. But this also has some low profile tires as well, so that just kind of makes it a little bit stiffer than I personally would prefer. Again, it's not bad. Road noise, it is a little higher compared to some of the other luxury cars that we're talking here. It's bearable, it's normal, but it's not ideal when you compare it to some of the high-end luxury brands. This is it's normal. It's not super quiet. Let's put it that way. And lastly, Volvo does a great job when it comes to safety. Not only that, because you can find safety features in a lot of other cars as well these days, but what I really like about this, the Volvo in particular, they put things in a way that makes sense. Unlike newer cars, it takes a while to get used to. This will be overwhelming for a lot of people who are just getting on it for the first time, but after you've used this for a week, you'll see that like a lot of features just make sense. The way they've placed them, the way that you use them, the way you turn them on and off. It's very intuitive and quick. It's extremely comfortable. It is slightly smaller than some of the other cars, such as the Mercedes and the BMW, the Mercedes GLS and the BMW X7. What's nice about this is that it's great for city. If you need a 7-seater but you live in the city, it's probably be my #1 choice. I mean, it could be great for if you live in suburbs, but the GL and the X7 tend to feel really big and are just difficult to park in the city, versus the Volvo is slightly more compact. Overall, it's a great car. Volvo did a really good job with this vehicle. As far as diagnosing, again, when it comes to repairing, you will need to do to get into you get a full system scanner that can scan all the systems if you're gonna do all the repairs yourself. Otherwise, you're not gonna have much luck. You can do simple things like changing oil, but even things like changing the brakes, for example, you need to have a tool to put the brakes in the rear brakes into service mode, so that the electronic parking brake opens up, and then you can replace the brake pads. So if you are going to depend on a mechanic, then you don't have to worry about that. It tends to be a little bit on the expensive side when it comes to maintenance costs, but that's pretty typical with these luxury cars. And I would say it's probably not as expensive as it is with Mercedes and BMW. The only thing with Volvo, you're gonna find some mechanics turn you down and not want to work on it because they're just not familiar, especially when it comes to the more advanced stuff like, you know, troubleshooting, replacing a module, or tracking down, let's say you have a battery that drains overnight, and trying to figure out what's causing it. Not everybody is going to take that responsibility and work with it, just because not everyone is familiar with these vehicles. And that's all. I would rate this about 8 out of 10 as far as overall, including how difficult it is to repair this vehicle, or our repair score. Thank you for watching Mechanic. You can be the mechanic.